Whole deal. And you see, when I talk in AA, I talked in AA the other night, and I said, we were talking about the Bible and AA and the underpinnings and things like that. And I said, the problem is people are doing the Bible and they don't even know it. They're reading it, they don't even know it. They're reading James, they don't even know it. They're reading 1 Corinthians 13, they don't even know it. And so what happened is I'm talking to my sponsor, and I said to him, I started talking about my wife. She's doing this and she's doing that, and I was very upset. I was very disturbed. She spent too much. She said too much. She yelled at me. She talked to me, blah, 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 and I'm going crazy. I'm mad. I'm angry. So after I go through this for about 13 minutes, anybody ever been upset here? Am I the only one? Anybody ever been anxious or worry? Anybody ever worry here? Worry. You wake up in the morning worrying. You go to sleep worrying. You're thinking it's all about the same thing. You ever worry about money? You do like a little budget in the morning, then you do another budget an hour later, and then another budget, and then you win some budget. And it's something like the money never changes. You make up an Uncle Fred. He dies, gives you $1 million, but there ain't no Uncle Fred, and you're doing, you just, you're going to win the lottery. You do all that stuff. What is the, let me tell you something. The booze is just the smallest part of this deal. Let me tell you something. Thank God I had booze. I would have killed myself before I was 18 without the alcohol. It's just the thinking that'll drive. Stop drinking is one thing. Stop thinking, impossible. And so here's the bottom line. So I'm talking to him, and I'm mad, I'm angry and everything like that. So after I'm done doing the whole thing, he says this to me. He says, do you know why you're upset? I said, what do you mean? Do I know why? He says, do you know why you're upset? I said, well, of course I know why I'm upset. He says, why are you upset? I said, Joe, I just spent 15 minutes telling you chapter and verse in detail what she did, who she is, how she treated me. I told you why I told you why I'm upset. And he says this to me, and I believed it. I believed that. I believed it to my heart and soul. As a matter of fact, when I was done with him, I pick up the phone and call up somebody else and tell them why I'm upset. I live my whole life thinking why I'm upset. I drive in the car. I can't believe I married this girl, why I'm upset. My whole life, my whole being for a month would be why I'm upset. Pour me a drink. And he says to me, do you know why you're upset? I said, I just told you why I'm upset. And then he says this to me. He says, that's not why you're upset. He says, that's not why you're upset. And then he shuts up. You know why he shut up? He didn't say anything because he was smart, because he had spiritual discernment, because he knew if he told me why I'm upset, I'd argue with him. Because that's what alcoholics and addicts and people like us do. We just argue. We get mad, we argue, because because not only are we self-centered, we're defiant. We want to argue. We sit in the back room and saying, who is this guy? I'm the one who should be talking. They should be listening to me. We're not skeptics. We're cynics. It's too good to be true. It's too good to be true. That guy's too good to be true. There's nothing ever too bad to be true. Oh, it's bad? Oh, it must be true, That's the way we are. We put everything down. We cut everything down. We destroy. That's the nature of the disease. The nature of the disease is to kill the prophet. The prophet comes in your life, kill him. He's bad, you know what I mean? The demon comes in, he says, I like that guy, you know what I mean? Because he's like me, he's like me, that's the deal. So he said, that's not why you're upset. And then he shut up. So, what are you going to do? I'll tell you what I did. I said, that's not why I'm upset. He said, no, that's not why you're upset. That whole thing I told you is not why I'm upset. He says, no, it's not why you're upset. And he shut up. Yeah, I know. I felt the same way. You want to know what he said, right? Imagine how I felt, I said, well, are you going to tell me why I was upset? And then he goes like this. He says, well, do you really want to know? Do you really want to know? He said, listen, stupid. Because he loved me so much, Guys are like that when you sponsor guys, Women are different. You see, you tell a guy, how stupid can you be? You are the dumbest son of a gun I've ever known. And the guy walks away and says, he loves me. You know what I mean? Women, for some reason, it doesn't work on. You say you're stupid, they cry, and it's terrible, They're all hurt and injured, They can't handle it. So he said, you know why I'm upset? He says, no. He says, you really want to know? I said, yeah, I want to know. He says, listen, Russell. He says, you're upset because you're upsettable. You're upset because you're upsettable. What is that, like Zen AA or something like that? You know what the Apostle Paul, you know what the Apostle Paul said? I've learned to be content in all things. You know what he was saying to us? You're upset because you're upsettable. You know what Jesus said? In this world you will have problems. Did he say in this world it's going to go great? As a matter of fact, it's going to be bad. He said in this world you will have problems, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. You know what that means? That means you're upset because you're upsettable. I'm not upset no matter what the problem is because I'm just not upsettable. It doesn't bother me. And so now I'm 31 years married. You think my wife changed? She's probably gotten worse. I have these guys, they hang around me. They have problems with their marriage. They have problems with their wife. They like hanging around me because my wife says things, does things, looks at me, says stuff, and they'll look at me and they'll say, did you hear what your wife just said? I said, no, what? What, you know? You know, I don't argue. I go straight. You know, my wife says, you know, you're probably the worst husband in the world. I said, plead guilty to that. I don't fight. I said, let's just go right to the fine. It's usually a blouse or something I can handle. You know what I mean? I just plead guilty, you know? She says, oh, you're incorrigible. There's no arguing with you. I said, you're right. You're right. What do you want me to say? You're right. I'm terrible. I'm horrible. I'm the worst. Where do you want to go to dinner? You know, I mean, what movie do you want to see tonight? What's the use, you know? And I mean, it's the truth. You get upset because you're upsettable. And all sorts of things. And then I went to an AA meeting one time. I went to a meeting one time. There was a guy talking from the podium just like I'm talking. His name was Al Kennedy. Enough people in the room just like there are right here. You run into these guys that are walking the narrow way. The narrow way. You got to run into them. They're here in Christ, and he's walking the narrow way. I didn't know this guy from Adam. He's just talking, you know. I knew one thing about him. He was like a man, you know. You can recognize him. If you're not a man, and I wasn't a man, I was trying to fake it. You know, I wanted to make sure nobody found out that I wasn't a man because being a man meant you had to be a whole bunch of things, which I wasn't, but I like to fake it a lot. And I could recognize a man because, you know, this guy had his act together. You know, he was strong, but he wasn't arrogant. You know, he was soft, but he wasn't weak. You know, he had, I don't know, he was comfortable in his own skin, and he knew who he was, and he was just uplifting people, and he was helping people, and he was saying things, and he's the kind of guy that you say, man, I wish I could be friends with that guy. I wish I could hang out with that guy. If I could only hang out with, if I could be that guy's friend, if I could hang with him, I don't even have to say that. I just want to go to lunch with him, you know, or something like that. Something may rub off, and he's probably got a lot of things that he could teach me. And he was done, and he walked out of the room. This happened to me 30 years ago. You know, it's funny, you meet people like this, and I've probably gone to 10,000 AA meetings and Bible studies and everything like that, and you'll remember things that happened to you 30 years ago. I looked at this guy, and I turned to my sponsor. I said, man, that guy was phenomenal. And he looks at me, and he says this to me. This is what he says to me. He says, you know, he's dying of cancer. That's what he said. He's dying of cancer. I didn't hear him at first. I said, what? I said, he's dying of cancer. You know, I'm a thumb-sucking crybaby. If I got a hangman nail, that's good for 15 meetings and a psychiatrist, you know, and popping pills, you know what I mean? He says, he's dying. He says, I said, no, I'm talking about the guy who just was talking. He says, yeah, he's dying of cancer. I said, he was, because he didn't mention a word about it. He didn't say, you know, I would have said, just thought, you don't know, I'm dying of cancer, you know what I mean? Or, you know. Nothing, not a word. He says he's dying of cancer. He's got 3 months to live. 4 months later, he was dead. You know, when you see stuff like that, and it happens, you see, because I thought I was in bondage to stuff, in bondage to the world. I didn't know I was in bondage to the world because when you haven't done a 4-step and you can't connect the dots, you don't know you're in bondage to the world. You don't know you're addicted to the things of the world. You don't know you're addicted to this or addicted to that or addicted to me. You don't understand that. All you know is people are constantly hurting your feelings. The world is constantly doing you wrong. You're constantly feeling bad because you know why? Because you're not addicted to Jesus Christ. Because Jesus Christ will never do that to you. You know what I mean? You know, you got to look to him and look to him alone. You know, there's only one thing that's necessary. That's what Jesus said to Martha. Only one thing is necessary. And Mary was looking at Jesus. And so I'm sitting there watching this Al Kennedy guy, and I just knew that there was something more in this deal than just not drinking, not drugging, not doing pornography. There was some sort of freedom. So that when I got cancer the first time, you want to know something? It didn't, and I'm just telling you the truth. You know, I'm not saying I'm Superman or anything, you know. It didn't bother me. It was just one more deal, you know, and the second time it doesn't bother me, you know. And the bottom line is this stuff doesn't bother me. You know, I mean, the stuff that used to kill me and bother me doesn't bother me the way it used to. Now, I'm not perfect. I was talking to a young man, I don't know whether Derek's here, about, you know, whether we get absolutely, you know, I don't want to say here, first of all, I want to say I'm absolutely, you know, I don't want to give my speech on humility. I never do it with a group this small anyway, but You like that, Pastor Carey? You can steal that if you want. You know, you can take that. But No, I would never want to, hey, listen, you want to know something? I start thinking I got it all together. Believe me, I'm going to walk out of here.